Okay, I think we can all agree that this is a big air pistol. Nice handsome piece. But this is a bigger air pistol for sure. Yeah, it barely fits in the frame here. But this, yeah. Welcome back to Canacare. What we have here today is billed as an air pistol by its manufacturer. It seems a bit massively oversized. That's my lens zoomed back all the way and it still doesn't fit in the frame. Okay. But if you've seen these out and about before, you realize they do come with this, which is a detachable shoulder stock, turning it into perhaps more of a pistol carbine type of affair. When I first laid eyes on this thing, I thought for sure it was some sort of CO2 powered BB repeater or something like that. But no, it's actually a brake barrel, spring piston, air pistol slash carbine slash rifle. This one's in 22 caliber. They also come in 177 apparently. And the description on the side here in the polymer grip describes it as a BO manufacturer, the Black Ops Soul. That, if that doesn't make sense to you, then you're not alone, because I can't make any. What is that supposed to mean? Black Ops teams have some sort of mindfulness exercises with air guns at the end of the long day of killing people. So this is their Black Ops Soul. Something got lost in the translation somewhere. This gun is, BO Manufacturer is apparently a French company, French design, marketed in North America anyway, it seems, by Norica, which is a Spanish company, but it is in fact made in China, as you probably might expect these days. So I found it interesting, so I thought I might like to share it with you. Maybe it's decently powerful. Maybe it's accurate. Maybe it's just a whole pile of fun. I don't really know. So I'm going to have to look into it a little bit. I do have some paperwork on it somewhere. I did print out the company's website. Where did I put that? Here we go. Got some information here. Printed out the French website. Got the English translation of it, although I have to say it didn't make any more sense to me in French. Is apparently an armament by brake barrel. Okay, fair enough. High density polymer body, makes sense. Detachable polymer stock to transform your pistol into a rifle. Okay. 21mm Picatinny mounting ram with open fiber optic sight. Yeah, it does have fiber sights. Extremely deep tan. Well, given that this is black, that's about as deep as you can get a tan, I suppose. Very high quality internal parts. Okay. Adjustable trigger during the race. Yeah, that didn't make any sense in French either. I don't know where that came from. FMB steel fret? Not a clue. 30 centimeter long barrel, so that's like a 12-inch barrel we have here. We'll get a proper full look at the whole thing when we get it all together. Ambidextrous controllers. I guess that just means you've got a crossbolt safety here. I played around with it a little bit and discovered it does have a anti-bear trap mechanism in there, so when it is cocked and open, you cannot fire it. You have to load a pellet in it, close it up, and shoot it. So yeah, that's interesting. So it has some sort of specifications on it. Doesn't make a lot of sense. They have it producing more energy in 177 with a only almost barely faster projectile speed, so I think honestly it's just a bunch of nonsense. So yeah. Anyway, this model is officially the Langley Pro Sniper. It says Langley right here, and the paperwork says it's named after the Langley Air Force Base. So yeah, I guess a lot of Black Ops teams hang out at the Air Force Base. I would have thought Langley had a better connection with the CIA, but yeah, never mind. Who knows? Maybe they weren't allowed to say that or something. But we've got a polymer shrouded barrel. It's actually kind of nicely done. There's an interesting groove along the bottom here, which I can't quite explain, but yeah, it's not bad. Everything's all mostly plastic on the outside. You do have your piston receiver tube, a little bit of it showing there. The rest of it is shrouded in this sort of a wraparound piece that has the Picatinny rail on it. They do caution in the instructions that when you do have the shoulder stock attached, to not use the shoulder stock as leverage point for cocking it. Grab it here. That seems to make sense. They say this will void your warranty if you do that. So yeah, I can understand that. This has a locking collar. You turn that and it locks it down. Some interesting glitches on it. The rear sight, of course, is way the back here. We're quite on spring piston guns. We're often seeing the rear sight mounted right on the barrel block, but they put it right at the back, which for pistol use, you've got a fair bit of sight radius there. Except that when you put the shoulder stock on there, this is way too close to your face to be able to see it clearly. A peep sight would work there, but I can also imagine that for most people are going to go, yeah, I need some kind of scope on there or a red dot sight or something. Red dot is probably what I'm thinking about this one in the future. So, well, before we go any further with it, I might do a little bit of testing on it, see what we can find out about it before I start tearing into it, because I have found a couple of causes to want to do some disassembly and see what we've got in here. It does appear to be a cut down spring piston rifle. Looks to be from the Crossman Optimus type family. Maybe it comes from the same factory or something adjacent to that. So, but definitely shortened with a shorter barrel. But that doesn't mean it still can't generate decent power. So let's find out what we can. Well, I think first up, I might try to demonstrate the trigger pull on this big beast. So, cocking it left-handed for me, awkward. Pop in a basic grizzly pellet here. Okay, I'm gonna aim it at the backstop here, and with my left hand, pull this trigger for you. Let's see how it goes. If you can just appreciate this. So I get a little bit of light take up there, and then I keep pulling. Move a little bit. Harder, still pulling harder. Ooh, a little bit more. There we go. That's not only a pretty hefty trigger pull, it's definitely very crunchy. There's a lot of movement there. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 movements. There we go. Yeah. Lot of something rubbing on something in there. Definitely could take a look to see if it can be improved. If some cleaning up the surfaces there might make it something we can live with. For the moment, though, that pretty makes it impossible to shoot with any sort of accuracy. Okay, so I got the chronograph set up just so we can take a few initial shots with this gun, which is supposedly new or like new. I didn't get it with the box or instructions. Well, the box looks really cool. Let's see if I can find a picture of that for you. There we go. These are just the grizzly pellets, nothing special. Chinese pellet and a Chinese gun, makes sense. Make sure the safety's off, and see what we can find out. Okay, first shot here. .368. Under 400 feet per second. That's about what I probably expected. Even though it is significantly bigger and heavier than something like, say, a Webley Senior or a Webley Hurricane. Canadian regulations being what they are, you don't want to exceed 500 feet per second with anything like this. 363. Don't know if you can tell, but there's a heck of a ping, a ringing after the shot. So Definitely the spring vibrating back and forth like crazy in there. See if that's something we can tune. .127, yeah, that's obviously a bad reading. Chronograph battery might be a little bit low. Not the chronograph itself, but the lighting for it. It's very critical. 136, yeah, that's not right. .358, sounds more like it. Try a couple more to give us an even 5 good readings. Also, pointing this thing straight over the chronograph is tricky. I admire those ones that just attach right on the end of the barrel, but 350. And one last one, hopefully. .340, a little bit lower there, but at least we have an idea what this thing is capable of doing. It's probably right on target for what I expected. So yeah, next step will be to tear it all apart, see what we've got, see if we can find out what's causing all this crunchiness in the trigger mechanism, see if we can fix that, see if we can tune up the spring, maybe some dampening grease, and smooth things out a bit, and maybe we've got something that actually wants to shoot well. Well, let's see what it takes to get into all this, shall we? We don't need that for the moment. Looks like these are the first things to come out. This is separate from this. I think I'll just knock that off. Here. So we have a very dry spring, rather haphazardly lubricated piston assembly, and a nicely, decently made receiver tube, and a trigger assembly that needs some attention. Okay. Feels nice and smooth when it's out of the gun. Might be the problem. Somebody designed this on a computer and everything all works perfectly well on the screen, and then by the time you actually start making them, put them into production, you start having parts rubbing on things you didn't really anticipate. Okay, yeah, but these parts are a lot of plastic there. Okay, something to explore. So what I'm doing now is making a piston liner. The spring for this VO has a fair bit of rattle around it, a bit of play in there, and frequently finer airgun manufacturers will insert some sort of a liner in there between to take up the space between the piston and the spring. Sometimes that liner is made of plastic, sometimes it's made of steel. Some people go as thin as making them out of things as thin as beer cans and things like that, but I'm going to use something a little bit thicker. This is a piece of thin plastic salvaged from a laundry detergent bottle, and it needs to fill up the piston up to about here. I don't want to go any further than that, but I need something to fold over on the inside, so I need a few millimeters more, so I'm going to cut it right here. Already cut it. Just slice it over on the inside here. That should work. It's like the spring there, that's okay. As long as it goes under the power right. Now this left here is I need to score and mark. There. I'm trying to fold it. I'm going to fold it down. And easy cut it. Because I'm scissors. And now it's nice to actually be able to exactly that's how you have it right. The idea is these fold over so that the spring will actually hold it in place, so it can't possibly slide backwards out of the piston. Okay. Nice soft. Don't touch. It's warm. Out. So here we go. After a bit of tedious cutting and trimming later, we have the plastic liner inside the piston tube, and the spring goes in there like that. And again, the spring just compresses and expands. It doesn't come in and out of the tube, of course. So yeah, that'll hopefully deaden some of the vibrations in that in the rifle / pistol. Well, in order to get a better idea of what's going on with this trigger mechanism and why it's so crunchy, because it feels actually pretty half decent when it's out of the gun, there are some little rough spots on the plastic molding here, but And I'll definitely clean them off. They probably aren't to blame, but they don't help either, I can't imagine. So we'll sort that out later. I have determined that I can put this on and take it off again with the rear plug in it installed. So I'm going to put the spring and piston assembly back in and the barrel on so I can cock it, and then I'll see exactly what this trigger is or is not doing. At least that's the hope. So let's see what we can do here. One of the challenges of putting a synthetic piston seal back into the tube is not tearing any of the plastic off it. And I can see when this was first installed at the factory, they did not do a great job. But still, the seal should still function. It's just, yeah, you got to be really careful to not catch that on any of these little rough edges. I have some nice tools that help with that. Where'd they go? See, this is a slotted screwdriver with a fairly sharp edge on it. This one has a much softer, rounder edge, and I find it actually works fairly well in pushing down the synthetic parts so that they slide in. There we go. And the last little lip right here. There we go. Now, as for the spring, I'm going to use a different grease. This is just ordinary white lithium grease. I do have the heavier duty red and tacky stuff, and I was planning on using it for this, but I think with the piston liner in there, this will be sufficient. One of the problems with the red and tacky stuff is that while it can tame a really noisy spring cycle, it can rob you of a bit of power, which don't really want on a gun of this size. Okay, that goes in there quite nicely. Now, once it's halfway in, you coat the remainder of the spring. The back of the receiver here, the receiver plug, is synthetic plastic, and that's what the shoulder stock attaches to. I have put a bit of a vestige of a spring guide on here. Might as well lubricate it. Probably doesn't do anything, but can't hurt. And then the thing I must not forget is the stock bolt screws into this. So they put a little hex bolt nut in there. And that goes in this way, so there's only one way up. That goes there like that. And if I needed a big spring compressor, I could use that now, but right now this will do just fine. So I hope this works. Some of the more powerful guns, these bench clamps don't have enough strength to be able to pull this off. But this one will be fine. Now, like slight misalignment there. Okay. And that's the pin that goes in there. Put a little bit of grease on it, just in case. More just for corrosion resistance. And it has a serrated knurled side. I don't know which side it came out that way. I think it was this side here. Alignment has to be bang on, otherwise it won't go through. Looks pretty good, but and have to be very careful not to let this thing slide out of the clamp. Okay. Okay, so the spring's in, and hopefully that I won't have to remove it again, but if I have to, well, I have to. So now what I need to do is put the barrel on. I won't bother lubricating because I know I'll have it off again later. There we go. No. Okay, so I sort of set this thing up, jury-rigged it a bit. Now I'm going to cock the gun. Okay, so I have the gun set up here. It is cocked, it has a pellet in it, and right through this little portal right here we can see the sear engagement, those two metal pieces. The top piece here is what's holding back the piston, I'll call that the piston latch, and this bottom piece here is the actual sear. And that is pressed upon by a plastic pivot right here, which is then pressed upon by the trigger itself. The trigger has an adjustment on it, and I've adjusted it all the way in to give us minimum sear engagement. And let's see how we do. Hopefully we can see this on camera. I may have to magnify it a bit. We'll find out what happens. So, let's pull the trigger. You can see the sear moving, and moving, and moving, and moving. And finally it should go off. There we go. So there's our release. Takes an awful lot of movement for those two pieces to disengage. And what's to blame really is our little trigger adjustment screw here, which rides on the actual underside of the cocking linkage, which is an interesting way of doing things. This little screw, by the time it goes through the trigger piece, there's hardly anything that sticks out the far end. There's almost no adjustment on this trigger whatsoever. That's a common thing on modern air rifles, especially those made in China for some reason. By the time the corporate lawyers have got a hold of things, yes, they brag of a trigger adjustment, and then they hobble it by making it pretty much useless. So what I may end up doing is threading in another metric 5mm screw goes in there, obviously not this long. Once I figure out what the optimal length will be, I'll shorten it down. But that should be able to simply pull the trigger back just enough that we have less sear engagement and it won't take quite as much to disengage it. Another thing I may do is polish these sear surfaces a bit and definitely lubricate them. And then also clean up all the little rough plastic edges and things like that and put some lubricant on the plastic. This isn't ideal. If this was made out of CNC machined aluminum, it would be a lot more rigid. It'd be a lot more precise. I think we'd have a better trigger pull on this. Who knows? Maybe the prototypes that they originally made were aluminum and they end up using this injection molded plastic, which is obviously a compromise to help keep the cost of the gun down for sure. Well, so anyway, I will take it all apart and see what I can do. Keep our fingers crossed. So our Black Ops Soul Langley sniper is all ready to go over the chronograph. I'm going to use these 13.73 grain, so a little lightweight for 22 wad cutter pellets. I'll try 5 of them to start. See how they do. See how if I can cock this. It's fairly stiff to cock. Okay. The trigger pull, however, is much improved over when we started with it. 426. .427. Gained a whole foot per second there. .420. Oops. .425. That's actually pretty good. .426. Gosh, doesn't get much more consistent than that. I could shoot more, but I don't think I'd learn any more. So, yeah, let's take it out and shoot it. So my first few minutes at the range were spent zeroing in the little green dot, red dot sight that I purchased for this gun. It seems to be the right size and form factor that suits this little pistol carbine quite nicely. So, and I was able to get it to print fairly well. I refined it later on after I did more tests with various pellets. The Crossman Premier started out fairly well here. These are the older hollow point ones. I'm not sure how easy it is to get these anymore. But the group spread out a little bit to 1 inch, so yeah, can't complain too much. This is still only at 10 meters though. So then I tried the Daisy hollow points, and yes, I am aiming at this target that's, you know, centered in the screen here, and it's hitting well below for some bizarre reason. I've had this happen with these pellets before. They just don't seem to get along well with many things I try them with. Group was spread out to 43 millimeters, so 1.75 inches. Very vertically strung too, so obviously don't suit this gun very well. And then I got all excited by the Excite hammer. These ones did pretty darn well. Still printing a little bit low, but getting 20 millimeter group out of them. Unfortunately, this is also the end of my tin, so I don't have any more of these, so I couldn't do any more testing on them. Then just to prove it's not inexpensive pellets I have trouble with, these RWS Super Points. Again, pretty spread out 43 millimeter group, although printing a good bit higher than the Daisies were. And just to show that not all is lost, here is the JSB Jumbo Exact. These were in the Diana branded tin. And the group came in at just 17 millimeters, so 5/8 of an inch. So, yep, this gun can shoot. Obviously it's a little fussy with its pellets, so I might have to try a few more different ones to see if there's anything that does even better than this, but this does look pretty good though.
And of course, this is a fun gun, so we have to try it out against its preferred targets, which aren't paper, they are tin cans. This is harder than it looks because I'm not actually looking through the sight, I'm looking at the back of my phone, which is looking through the sight. These targets are actually a bit further away than they appear here in the image. The thing keeps coming loose. That is a hit. The can just didn't jump around at all. Pellets just went straight through. I do notice this dot sight has a bit of an interesting reflection on the top edge of it there. It isn't all that noticeable when you're looking through it with your eyes though. So. Don't know if there's anything I can do to fix that, but yeah, I hit it no problem at all. But yes, this BO manufacturer Black Ops Soul is Langley Pro Sniper is a lot of fun. Actually, I'm more impressed with it than I thought I would be. It's a nice, neat little package. I like the fact that it comes apart in two pieces for easy transport. It shoots with decent power. It's decently accurate with the right pellets, and yeah, it does the job. However, I have to say, this comes after a fair bit of elbow grease and tinkering. The piston liner obviously does a great job in reducing the ping and noise, and also apparently improves the power a little bit too. The trigger mechanism was fairly atrocious as it came out of the box, but with improving it a bit here and there, we've got it so it shoots reliably and safely. I have to say, don't just do this kind of tinkering if you're not comfortable with the tools and the techniques that are required. So in that instance, if you do just pick one of these up and just shoot it stock, you're going to be a bit more disappointed with it. But anyway, thank you for watching. Chronograph will return, and consider subscribing.